This is Brewin Black Podcast, where the contents we serve you is authentic, vulnerable, and relatable. That means we serve you with no cream and no sugar.
I guess I like my coffee black.
Hey everyone, this is Scholar P, pronoun he, him, his.
And it's your boy T Shaw, pronouns he, him, his.
And we want to welcome you to Brewin Black, giving you the latest in Black popular news and culture for our intellectuals, our millennials, and those who like their coffee just like we like our news. Black. How you feeling, T?
Man, it's been a week. But I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling a little tired, a little exhausted, but best friend here. So shout out to Elda. You feel me?
Yeah.
It's just been a week, bro. Like physically, emotionally, intellectually, with this country, with my job. And just I think with my job it's hard because it's like just working with students. I think you get highs and lows. Like there's some things as educators you can't do to like you only have them for an hour, right? So it's like you hear so much about them and the things that shape them before they come into the classroom. But it's like once they leave the classroom, you can't protect them no more. So I think that it's a tough thing because it's like you want to be transformational, you want to make a great impact, but there's so much of life that you can't control. So I think it's like kind of dealing with that and handling that. What about you?
Absolutely. No, yeah. Like trying to figure out how to control that element is so key. This week has been crazy. Shout out to the Black Graduate Student Association. Everyone from Elda to my man Izzy to Aji to Janae to Markeith. We really all came together to make an event happen recently. Something called Thankful, where we have food, fun, and fellowship for the Thanksgiving holiday, even though we don't fuck with them colonizers, you feel me? But it was a great event. But we busted our tails and our butts to make it happen. And I just realized this week as an event planner that like sometimes, sometimes things don't go your way, but if you hustle, you have enough faith and you have the right people around you, it can be a phenomenal event. And it felt great. And, this Saturday, USC, UCLA, we going at it. We going head to head. But we also going to be fellowshipping together. So I'm excited to see everyone in person and to enjoy it. But yeah, man, this week has been brutal. And we're going to get into that in the show today. It's just been heavy. So I'm hoping to really use this weekend to decompress and get life back on track to whatever capacity we can do that. But T, why don't you let the people know what land we potting on?
Absolutely. So this is the land of the Gabrielino and the Tongva. This is stolen land. This is colonized land, and we will always, always, always pay those respects.
Absolutely. So what we're about to get into right now is something called our espresso shots, and that's when we just give you quick updates and opinions about the stuff going on in the world. So one of the first things we want to talk about is Zach Stacy, and his case with abusing and physically, just putting his hands on his ex girlfriend. T, what are some of your thoughts about that?
Bro, I woke up to seeing that video, and as important as I understand videos are, it's like it's a dual-edged sword, right? So it's like we know when videos come out that oftentimes something happens, and that video came out and Zach Stacy was arrested that same day. It's like when we see the videos of these unarmed Black men and women being shot and sometimes killed by police, like we know that things happen fast. So I understand the how it builds an urgency, but also it's like, damn, bro, like it's so tough to watch. Like, and I know there are some people that are triggered by that. So I think it's a dual-edged sword, but Zach Stacy was, bro, I don't even know if I can find words other than like disgusting and vile and heinous. Like a grown man should never be doing that to anybody, but let alone a woman. And it's like, bro, you would have thought it was WWE, like how he was like tossing her around and slamming her through tables and stuff, bro. Like it was nutty. But yeah, bro, like I, I believe in prison abolition. We've talked about this and we'll jump into it a little bit more, but like there's a special place in hell for people like that. And that's just what I'm gonna stand on. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I just it's so crazy. Um, I think that any, male identifying person who's putting his hands on someone who identifies as a woman it's just a crazy thought, right?
Mhm.
But like, men who are in the NFL, a lot of them, they are just much bigger than the average human being, man or woman, right?
Absolutely.
And so for this man to be putting his hands on a woman that is, this she's not big for a woman, she's not the size of a man, and for him to be putting his hands on her as a huge NFL player,
Mhm.
is very very despicable.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like you said before, like there's a special place in hell for people who feel like that's how you treat a woman. I don't think that there's anything that could like really justify that type of anger and that type of reaction. And we're going to get to men and their crazy reactions probably really all throughout the show
Mhm.
today. But yeah, no, it's disgusting. There's really not much more to say because I can't defend it. And like outside of saying it's extremely wrong and uncalled for, this nothing much for me to contribute there.
Yeah.
Like it's disgusting. But what I do want to say, actually, I'm sorry, there is something. The NFL has a responsibility to send a message and make sure that we know as a society just how much they don't condone that. So I
Mhm.
think that the NFL needs to use this as another reason and opportunity to really illuminate this light, and to say that just because someone's famous or well known or has some money doesn't mean that this type of stuff can't be happening in the home. So hopefully the NFL sort of takes that on guard.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off of that real quick, like there's actually a case right now with Dalvin Cook. He's a NFL star running back for the Minnesota Vikings. There was video or not video, there were photos coming out of how he had assaulted his ex-girlfriend. And I know Adam Scheffner is a top like NFL reporter, but they kind of leaked their story to him ahead of the pictures coming out and the suit coming out. And they got ahead of the story. And he was like, oh, well, I, as a man, was actually the victim of domestic violence and she beat me. And this is kind of my story. And then, of course, later on that day, that's when the suit was actually from her, the suit was put in and it was announced, and then the pictures were leaked as well. So I think that again, we don't know the situation. They probably put hands on each other, but I think that the NFL has decided to take no stance on that. They haven't asked him to step away from the game at all. They said it's a civil suit and that they can figure it out themselves. So I think that just like you said, I think that the NFL is important for them knowing that they have something on their hands right now to make a strong stand and show that they're against domestic violence because we have, I think, at least 3 times, 3 to 5 times a year, players, either ex players or current players, um, in trouble for their domestic violence and their violence against partners or violence against family members and things like that. And I really like the point that you made talking about how these people in the NFL are much bigger than normal everyday people walking around, let alone women. Um, so I think that one is kind of crazy that it's the mother of his child that he put his hands on like that. But two, that like knowing how big they are, it is in a way like assault with a deadly weapon. Like how
Yeah,
boxers register their hands, like NFL players should probably register their bodies because it's like, dog,
right.
like you shouldn't be walking around like the Rock, treating people like you the Rock. Like it don't
Right.
make no sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, we want to send our, well wishes and positive energy towards the mother, his children, and their family. And we hope that Zach Stacy, gets his stuff together and learns from this experience. We're glad that no one is dead, because like that could have easily been a murder. So
Mm,
easy. And I think that people gotta, I think, man, we gotta realize our power and our strength, And in this case, it's physical, but it can be in so many other ways that we use it to hurt people. So yeah, it's just not something to be condoned, because violence is real, and you know that really could have been a death. And speaking of which, unfortunately, the violence has been crazy lately. Like we said, and we're going to continue to say, it's a very, very heavy week. Young Dolph, a very well known rapper, I believe
Yeah,
Tennessee is where he resides,
mhm.
or where he's from, and he was gunned down. Some reports say that I think he was in a barbershop trying to buy donuts or buy
Cookies, yeah, it was
cookies,
like
and
a local cookie shop picking up some for
yeah,
his mom.
yeah, and it's just like that's where he gets gunned down, and it gives me, God rest his soul, it gives me sort of some deja vu feelings, like with Nipsey, right? So
Mhm,
the idea that like you're not doing nothing to nobody, you're not trying to harm nobody, like, and you just get gunned down like an animal in the street, and it's just really, really unfortunate, and it's very crazy, and I'm just so thankful to be a young black male and to have my life and have like air in my lungs and things of that nature, because so many of us don't get to grow to see that. He had a partner, he had multiple kids, and now he won't be able to like see them grow, and build
mhm.
his relationships. And so condolences to young Dolph and his family. But T, did you have any like other thoughts about the situation?
Yeah, bro. I think the same thing as you, that it really did bring up similar feelings with Nipsey, just because it's like it's a dude that made it out, that stayed local, that supported local businesses, that produced music that people could really resonate with, and it's like they never changed, right? And it's like I understand that Dolph was a street dude. I mean, he had a whole album called Bulletproof about how, and the song titles was about how they tried to kill him. I think it was like 100 shots in Charlotte, but I'm bulletproof, so F them. That's how I feel. It's like the track list, and it's a flex. So it's like I understand that he lived his life, but it's crazy that you can get caught slipping in your own neighborhood doing something that you do so often, so frequently. So yeah, it's unfortunate. And I guess one of my favorite Dolph stories, and this might resonate with you, but how those Duke students, they worked at the cafe,
Yeah.
they got fired for playing his song Get Paid. And what he did was, like, he brought them to, not only to, I think it was Rolling Loud, brought them to Rolling Loud, had them on stage, and gave them, I think, 20,000 a piece, and was like, "Look,
Yeah.
this should hold you over until you get another job, get paid." So I think that that kind of shows you who Dolph was, and it's like,
Mm.
I remember, I think that it really brings up Nipsey feelings for me, because it's like Nipsey was somebody that, like, bought into the community, that, like, that bought back the block, that supported people, that was giving money and having programming that helped the local people, and that's what Dolph was doing. He was generous with his money. He wasn't stingy by any means, and I think that I just want rappers and other entertainers and other successful people to kind of follow that model. And I think I saw a lot of people saying, like, "This is why y'all got to get out the hood." And I think that's the wrong mentality to have, because I do think it's still important for us to still to try to pull the people out that can't make it. I think it's a testament to how he lived his life. Um, and I don't think that everybody should take that same thing away from what happened. I do think it's so unfortunate, but I think that it's still important that we don't give up on people. You can't say, like, "Oh, well, that's why we got to turn our back on the people that we made it out and they didn't make it, and they gonna get us if we stay back." And I don't think that's always the case.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think that yeah, this is a very unfortunate circumstance, but like you said, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Mhm.
The reason we can remember him so fondly is because he gave back, and he was that example,
Yeah.
right? Because there are some people that whose names I will not mention, but when they pass, their legacy won't be that.
Mhm.
They some people are known for leaving legacies of harm, and
Mhm.
that wasn't young Dolph. Dolph, at least since he's been famous, and so God rest his soul. And I think that just it's a heavy week, but you're learning to cherish life as much as you can, to make the most out of it, and to really, pour in to the community and to the people around you, because you never know when it's going to be your time to stop pouring,
Mhm.
because it's your time to transition. So yeah,
Yeah.
man. It was funny because I was just doing estate planning with my mom this week, and it's just like it's just wild to like think that life is here and then
Mhm.
it's just gone. It could be gone at any moment. So rest in peace to young Dolph. Thank you
Yeah.
for your legacy, and thank you for changing lives and impacting lives while you were here.
Absolutely.
Um, so we want to, and thinking about life, because it can just be so fleeting. We also want to bring up the celebration of the preservation of life, right?
Mhm.
So we have Mr. Julius Jones. This man was, and I'm gonna let T break it down for you all even more, but he was on death row, and what I think it was around 2 hours before he was sentenced to be executed. He was actually, released from the death penalty to serve life without parole. But T, break that down even more for the people and tell me what you think about that decision versus, letting him out completely. Because my thing is, if you feel like he did something to deserve the death penalty, like, I don't know why. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of gray area for me. It seems like
Mhm.
you would either let that person go completely because that person didn't do it, or you're doubling down if you believe in the death penalty anyway. So like, and this is 2 hours before the man's about to get executed. Like, what was your intention? Do you feel like he deserved more right to like fight for his life? Like, what do you think about the situation?
Yeah, bro. And I have two things to say before we move into this topic. One's transitioning off the Dolph situation.
Yeah.
His wife, or the mother of his child, she started a campaign that's called Black Men Deserve to Grow Old. Something
Mm,
along those lines. And I think that this is so applicable right here with Julius Jones. And the second one is abolish the death penalty. I think that that's important. I think that that's at the heart of this conversation right here. And I want y'all to know that, yeah, you can talk about prison abolition and feel like that's super radical, right? Defund the police, that's super radical. But when we break down abolishing the death penalty, I think you'll start to understand that that has to be the baseline. That has to be the first step, right? So Julius was his execution date was, like Ashton said, set for yesterday, November 18th. And the parole and pardon board actually recommended that death penalty sentence be commuted, or I think that's the word, commuted. They voted 3-1 to provide clemency for him. And it was just waiting around for the Oklahoma governor to take that recommendation up for consideration. They recommended he have life with the possibility of parole. The governor decided not to give him the possibility of parole, but I think it is important to know that, like, Julius Jones is living to see another day, that his heart is still beating, and that provides you enough ability to continue to fight and to struggle for that. And I'm sure that he's happy that he's still breathing.
yeah.
So Julius Jones has been on death row since the age of 19, and for 19 years in Oklahoma, for a murder in 1999 that he's always said that he has no part in. And just two important facts I need y'all to know: that the victim was, his name was Mr. Howe, and Mr. Howe was a white man, and he was killed in a predominantly white neighborhood. And the district attorney at the time, his name was Bob Macy. He characterized the crime as an act of violence, committed by black men that was fueled by drugs. So falling into that 1990s, that Bill Clinton era of like, we need to be hard on crime, that there are super predators. As a 19-year-old black man, he was labeled as a super predator. And the narrative around the media coverage at that time was heavily focused on that. And we know that, like, politically, we were heavily focused on that the idea of super predators. The second fact I need y'all to know is that 11 out of the 12 jurors at Mr. Jones' trial were white. And one juror even referred to Julius Jones as the N word. And I said the N word, I'm gonna assume the hard R. They called that man a nigger. So like we already know how, and this is a death penalty case, right? So we know how biased that is. And he suggested that Julius Jones be taken out of the courthouse and be shot. So that tells you where he lies and what he stood for and what he believed. And to add a little bit of more information, I just want y'all to know that statistically, and you can go into the Innocence Project, and there are a number of different places that you can find these statistics. I believe even if you type in Death Penalty Information Center, they do a lot of this research. But the research shows that statistically, death sentences are more likely going to happen when the victim is white. So that already shows you that there is a prioritization of white lives. Oftentimes, if it's a black person that is killed and they were the only person that was killed, or it was only a few black people killed, you're not going to get the death penalty. But it's even more so likely if it is a black person killing a white person. So if the victim is white and the perpetrator is white, it's a possibility that there will be a death penalty. But if it's a black person killing a white person, oh, you gonna get the chair. But if it's a white person killing a black person, not so much. So I need y'all to know that there's a deep, deep, deep racial disparity when it comes to the death penalty. And that's why organizations like the Innocence Project exist, because there are often times that there are people arrested and put on trial and given the death penalty that have been innocent. And after time, they realize like, oh, that these people were innocent. So I think it is so important that they were even able to stop this sentencing and this execution. I we talked about this, and Scholar P, I want you to share your thoughts too, but I think that it's important that he's still living. I think that, yeah, life without parole is still tough, but I think that um again, it's just another day to live and it's another day to fight. And like, I think when you're faced against the death penalty, I think it's so hard to even imagine living another day. And I think for 19 years, knowing that that day is going to come where you're killed, and to find out hours before, I can only imagine him being elated, right? Um, but then also knowing that he can continue to appeal, and though it may take time, I think it did show that there is power to the people, where enough people cared and enough people fought and enough people donated to get this execution stopped. So I think that there is hope, and I think that that's what I'm left with looking at this. Though I understand that life without parole is still a death sentence in a way. So I think it's like you can't jump for joy, but I think that I hope that he was right, and I hope that people know that we can really make an influence on this political system and judicial system.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think that um, it's the idea about being able to continue to fight, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you and I were talking about how, like, for me, if I knew, I would never want to be in jail for the rest of my life, and I don't know what conclusion I would come to about my life if that were the case. And
Mhm.
I think that in this particular scenario, I think that when you can live to fight another day, when there's hope, when you can appeal and this, that, and the third, like, you can fight. You still got a chance. Like I got relatives who are serving those types of sentences, and the idea that they're still alive, they can still write, they can still connect, and they can
Mhm.
be fighting and trying to appeal things simultaneously. It's something to like be hopeful about in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, and I think even more importantly, it's not just you fighting. This is another chance for all the people who've been on the outside who have been fighting for you to continue to be a voice for you. So
Exactly.
it's yeah, like it's definitely a big thing for sure. So we want to say congratulations. More life, literally, for Julius Jones, and keep that fight going, brother. We here at Brewin Black, we support you.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, but you know what? It's interesting because sometimes in society there can be decisions that are made that we agree with and give us hope. But it's sort of like you can't get too caught up in the decisions of life, whether it's up or down, because sometimes when you get too high, the world can do some stuff and people can make decisions that can bring you low. And so we want to get into that because as we are recording this podcast, the world is basically reacting to Kyle Rittenhouse being acquitted of all charges. or found innocent and not guilty of all
Mhm.
charges against him. So, for those of you who are not familiar, Kyle Rittenhouse was, I believe, in Wisconsin, and he, killed 3 protesters, or he killed 3 people in the wake of a
2 of
protest,
'em, yeah, or killed 2 of them, wounded
and,
another.
and yeah, and wounded another. And so he was just found innocent. And it's an interesting thing. Before this podcast, I was talking about just I had a conversation with one of my friends who's a cop, and he actually agreed with the innocent verdict. And I can't say that yet because there's not enough details. But here at Brewin Black, we try to go through things with you all. So basically, from the videos I saw, I believe that the prosecution could make an argument that, like, okay, first guy threw a bag at him, charged him. There were shots going on all around, and, like, he doesn't know what's going on, so he turns around, he shoots the guy, and allegedly he's possibly calling the police. And then with the other two, Kyle trips. He feels like someone's coming at him with a skateboard, shoots that guy. And then the other guy who gets shot in the arm, who survives, is also running towards Kyle with a pistol. But on the other
Mm,
side of that, it's, hey, there's this white terrorist. He came. He's a 17-year-old boy with AR-15. And some people like to look at him as scared,
mhm,
scared. But it's like, you came with a group of people or by yourself with to a protest with the AR-15 as a child. So, like, how can you be that scared? And I think for me, the thing I want to break down is 2 things. First of all, as a community, I don't like, where's this boy's guardians? Where's his
mhm,
family? Because y'all shouldn't be letting any little boy be running around with AR-15.
mhm,
That's sickening. First of all, then secondly, I think that let's say he was each of those things were self defense. Let's say that. Let's be in that world for a second. The thing that black people and many people in America are upset about is not just the fact that he murdered people, but the fact that a black person would not be able to kill 3 people and to claim it was self defense. Even if Kyle Rittenhouse was running towards the cops to tell them what he did, black
mhm,
people would not get that same luxury. We
at all.
don't get that same luxury. And the fact that he can be alive in his trial
Mhm,
versus the cops gunning him down after I'd already killed 2 people and wounded another one is incredible to me.
yes.
That's that's an incredible in the most horrific way possible. And I think that that's what we have to understand about the situation. It's that it's not like, he shot those 3 white men, killed 2 of them. Okay, but, like, if, and T, you just said it, had it been a black man who had killed a white person for any reason, self defense or not, he wouldn't even get a chance to be under the jail. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? So I think that that's a big part of what we're thinking about, and we also think that it sets a bad precedent because you're teaching young white boys that it's okay to, carry around rifles, to shoot people, to be in places that they shouldn't have been anyway, because, there's some reports going around that he was trying to be a vigilante and,
mhm,
protect property. And it's just like, bro, you went out of your way to a different city or a different state to try and to defend something, right? You shouldn't have been there anyway.
big fact.
And now, not only did you come into a place where you didn't belong, you weren't invited, but you caused harm, right? All these
Mhm,
people would be alive if you would have just stayed your ass at home, but that's not the decision
mhm,
that you made, right? And so now I'm trying to look for the videos. I'm trying to see all the different interactions. But one of the bottom lines is that in America, what little white boys can go and get guns and shoot up the place in one
mhm,
way or another, and, like, that's not what we're supposed to be about. And that's why there's push to reform these gun laws, and other things as well, because it shouldn't be. Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have been able to get access to that gun. The police should have stopped him
mhm,
as soon as they saw him with a gun, and people should still be alive. And that's where some of our frustration lies. And we got to talk about his tears, bro. Like, those
uh,
tears, bro. Matter of fact, I've been talking a second. What did you think about his tears? And tell me what you just thought about the whole situation.
dog, I'm like, if he spent money on acting lessons, he need his money back because he was
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I'm not even gonna make, yeah.
if you don't take yo and I think what you said, like, it makes me think a lot, right? So let me juxtapose this. And when I say juxtapose, like let's put this in comparison. Let's put this side by side with the situation that sparked this, right? So the shooting of Jacob Blake, right? So Jacob Blake, it comes out, some information has come out since the shooting, and it was found that he had a knife. He had a pocket knife. I don't believe the knife was ever like actually like protracted. Like, yeah, I don't think it was ever like out. You know, a pocket knife, you can like hit the button and it flips out. So when the police were trying to arrest him, and tase him and some other things like that, he was walking to his car. One of the officers pulled him down, and when he falls down, the knife comes out of his pocket. He picks it up and he's going to his car. And they're telling him to drop the knife, drop the knife. He opens the car. He says that he was trying to just put in his console and that he was going to either just be arrested or whatever it is, but he didn't. He was thinking like, they're gonna kill me because I have this knife on me, so let me get rid of it. Um, and he shot in the back and he paralyzed, shot in the back 7 times, right? So he never got that benefit of the doubt, right? Because they almost gave him a death sentence for having a knife. And what he says is like, am I a knife thrower? Am I a ninja? Like, how does a knife that is not out, like, I'm not bringing a knife to a gunfight, essentially is what he's saying. Like, and
Right.
why would I stab some police officers? Like, what do I gain out of that? And it's like he's not even afforded that benefit of the doubt, right? But on the other hand, a young white boy who has no business crossing state lines to be a vigilante with an AR, he is afforded the privilege of murdering 2 people, shooting and injuring another, and yeah, let's say it's self-defense. Is there no accountability for putting yourself in that possession or position, right? That's like, let's imagine going to a zoo and getting in the cage with a tiger. This reminds me of Cat Williams' little skit. You in a cage with a tiger. It's a tiger. Why are you messing with the tiger, right? And you're provoking this tiger, and this tiger attacks you, and you shoot the tiger. You should be liable. You should be held liable. You should be sued for not only the value of the tiger, but you should probably be put in prison for killing a tiger because you put yourself in a position that you shouldn't have been in. And that's how I feel about him. Like, maybe in the videos, the people do look like they attacking him. I probably would attack his ass too. You provoking shit. You over here trying to be a vigilante, but he's also doing what Trump said, right? He said, y'all loot, we shoot, or something along those lines. I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but that's what I heard, and I'm sure that's what he heard too. He said, "Oh, I'm gonna go shoot me some errors. I'm gonna shoot me some looters in, right?" And I think that that's what we see in this, is that it is a upholding of white supremacy, and I don't think either one of us are surprised. Once I heard that the National Guard was there on Sunday, it's like, it's just a
Yeah, you
matter of
knew it was coming.
they dismissed the charge of him owning a gun illegally, an AR illegally. Once they did that, I was like, dog, that's one of the easiest charges. And let me real quick walk y'all through some of the charges, because I know some people are like, okay, well, you got to make sure that you're charging them with the right thing, so you make sure that the thing sticks. Okay. Well, they charged him with, I think, about 6 counts, 6 or 7 counts. Some of these charges include reckless homicide, intentional homicide, attempted homicide, endangering public safety, possessing a dangerous weapon under the age of 18, and breaking curfew. You telling me dog ain't he didn't get he didn't get charged or what's the word, found guilty of any of these things? Like, come
Right.
on, man. Like, at least when the weapons charge, I was like, he was literally under 18 with a dangerous weapon. That's right there for me. Endangering public safety. Well, walking around with a AR past curfew sounds like endangering public safety to me. Like, no one else would be allowed to do that. If I walked outside in Inglewood right now with an AR, oh, boy, SWAT gonna be on my ass quick. I ain't gonna get no time to explain, like, oh, I heard that there would be people out here rioting, so I want to patrol the grounds. No, they shooting me down, dog, for public disturbance, for disorderly conduct, for being black with a gun. Like,
Right. Which is
so
a thing.
and I think it's just, yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous. Just seeing how the judge was kind of chummy with him too. Like it seemed like an act. It seemed like a play. It seemed like just something to do in, like, for show, right? And I think that that's what's so harmful. And these cases just tell us a lot about our justice system. How white men are allowed to take this justice into their hands, and I think it comes a lot into the killers of Ahmaud Arbery in that case too. Is white men thinking that they can take justice into their own hands.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think that you have to be very, very careful in these types of situations. In these cases, there was there was claims and reports that the judge had his phone going off, and it was like
Uh,
the ringtone of a campaign song that Trump
yeah,
has, and things
sure
of that
was.
nature. And I think that even because I know some people in the comments are definitely talking about like his legal age to have that rifle in Wisconsin, and I think that there's a and you we can appreciate that law, but like to have that weapon and then be able to harm people with it without any type of accountability, you send the message to young white men that like this violence is okay, is justified. For even for one of my friends to classify him as scared, I'm just like, I don't know how you fear anything at any moment with that AR-15. You have all the power at all times, like, and I think to your point, T, like so many of us would not get the benefit of the doubt. The judge did seem. There were pictures of how close they were when they were looking at stuff in the courtroom
Mhm,
together, and it was sort of like, "I got you.
mhm,
Like, don't worry about this. You're young.
mhm,
We as white men, we all do bad things, and guess what? We all get 10 chances. This is just your first thing. Don't
mhm,
worry. You get at least 8 more times to be a terrorist. You get at least 8 more times to cause chaos. And it's crazy because, you know, I it, we really see some people really saw the innocence in this man. They
mhm,
like they saw something that was innocent about Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, and I don't, and I can't really fathom how he gets off, but people don't see the innocence and unarmed black people who have been shot down, and it's scary, it's sad, and
mhm,
what's going to happen is one of two things, right? When you continue to treat people in America like they don't matter and that their lives are futile anyway, they start acting like it. That shows itself in violence of all sorts, whether it's riots or other things. But even more importantly, probably, is how you affirm the people who are violent, right? So
mhm,
you got thousands, maybe millions of white boys who are looking, who might have thoughts about doing violence or being violent, and they say, you know what? Kyle got off. Kyle had a community around him. I can do the same thing. And by the
mhm.
time you realize you've done that, now you have countless others whose lives could be drastically altered in a negative way. And so I think that this is a time for America to like really step back and say, hey, look, this is not it. And even for Joe Biden to be like, nah, I agree with it. We stand on it. We got to trust the system. It's like, the system is broken. Um, and you've criticized some of your opponents about this type of stuff in the past. And
Mhm.
so I didn't appreciate that from him either, especially for him to not have been there, to maybe not even know all the details, regardless of what was said in the trial. So it's just a weird time.
Absolutely. And just kind of taking off from there. And before we transition off, I just want y'all to make sure that you're paying attention to the Ahmaud Arbery, the killers of Ahmaud Arbery, because of course Ahmaud Arbery is not on trial. He has not gotten that fortune right. Um, but his killers are currently on trial. I want you to know their names. We have William Roddy Bryan. There is his son named Travis McMichael and Gregory McMichael. Gregory McMichael was a former police detective and a private investigator, so he has deep roots into the justice system there, and that has caused problems. This case has been pushed back because two different attorneys have to recuse themselves because they knew him. They're currently facing 9 charges, including murder and aggravated assault, and they've built their defense purely around a two-part strategy that they were trying to do a citizen's arrest, and they had to kill him in self-defense. They've been testifying that they felt like they were in a life or death situation. But again, thinking about how these white men have taken justice into their own hands and they put themselves in that position. I think that we have to always consider that accountability of how you brought yourself in this situation. And you can't say that, like, oh, I feared for my life if you put yourself in that position, you know? Um, and also knowing that it gives George Zimmerman vibes too, because Mr. Michael, who prides himself as some type of like neighborhood police, um, called the police and said that he saw Mr. Arbery jogging by and that he resembled a suspect, black, in a series of break-ins. And the police told him that they didn't have any reports on file and to not pursue. Instead, they decided that that's what they were going to do. I believe the defense just rested either yesterday or today, so the case is wrapping up. That verdict will be coming. We probably will cover that by um next episode, but I just wanted you all to keep that in mind, that this is another pivotal case on deck. And y'all got to watch out because we understand how the justice system works. So yeah, we just wanted y'all to keep that on deck for y'all.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I didn't even say before, it's been such a crazy episode, but this was a part of our light roast. And for those of you who don't know about the light roast, is when we criticize someone or something in society, and we try to do it in a constructive way. But this week, it's just a tough week, man. It's
Mhm.
it's heavy. It's heavy, so I think we've said everything that we need to say on it. But yeah, this is a critique on America and how the system is working. It's so funny to you, even when you say justice system, it's like what just like I don't even know what to call
Oh,
it. It's
uh-huh.
it's just a system. It's just a system.
Judicial.
I can't even. You said what?
I like judicial because
Yes,
it's
the
by
judicial.
judges. It's not justice though.
Yeah, yeah, yes. No, not at all. So, yeah, it's a tough thing, and something else that's really been big too. That also unfortunately involves the loss of life. Was the Travis Scott his festival, Astro World Festival, right? It was a day in Vegas, and
Yeah, it was Astro World.
Astro, it was okay, part of the. So it was crazy. T put me on to one of the videos where you know they had signs all day. They had signs all day, even during the show. People chanting
Mhm.
Travis, "Hey, help us! Stop the show!" This, that, and the third. And it was just very, very sad to see that some of this could have been parlayed, and that there were just so many signs before all of this happened, to where you might have been able to stop some of this stuff had you been paying more attention and been more
Mhm.
diligent. But T, what do you think about the whole debacle with Astroworld?
Yeah, and we have Day in Vegas up there because I wanna use my experience at Day in Vegas to kinda show the differences and how things could have been different with Astro World. But there were a number of things that really made Astro World dangerous. One is the overcapacity. They just oversold tickets, and I think, of course, that's a problem of capitalism, right? Like, you wanna make as much money as possible, and I think when money is involved, a lot of the times, you don't prioritize, like, lives in general. And it's not even being very like conspiratory, like, oh, because I believe some people were like, oh, Travis was sacrificing people. Like, no, I think that it is just money being involved and people not wanting to lose money, which can tell you why they didn't stop the show. It can tell you why they didn't stop selling tickets. And I know people also broke in, like people like overwhelmed security to get into the show that hadn't paid. So overcapacity was a major issue. And the video we watched, Scholar P, it was talking about how people were at the mercy of just the crowd surge, right? It seemed almost like, imagine being in a river that's just rushing. It's just, it takes you wherever and you don't have any bodily control. That's what it seemed like for these people. Another big problem was a lack of security and a lack of and it was lack of security and underqualified security. There's a video of a man talking about how he ain't never even been to a concert, he ain't never done security, and he was hired to do security. There was a woman talking about how her family showed up because they said they was hiring security guards and doing a background check and nothing like that. And a few of them got in, a few of them didn't, and security guards were even quitting on site because they heard that it might be a scam, because it felt like a scam. They hadn't got any type of like training around this. There was a lack of qualified medical personnel. It was a lack of medical equipment. I think it was also a lack of care for one another as fans, but also like knowing that they were at the mercy of the crowd. I think that we it's not the biggest thing as much. And I think one of the biggest things was a lack of awareness from Travis Scott and the organizers, which is Live Nation. Um, there were so many people that were begging and pleading, and we've seen multiple videos of Travis to stop. I think we can say that, like, yeah, performers can't tell what's going on in the crowd, but I think one of the telltale signs is that there was an ambulance trying to come through and the ambulance never got where it needed to go. And it's like, once you saw an ambulance in the crowd, like, dog, you gotta stop. Like, I think human intuition, like, because he saw a few people falling out and he could have decided to stop the show for a second at that time. He paused, he said, turn on the lights, there's somebody over there. He told security to go over there and just kept going on with the show. So I think that lack of awareness, especially when it comes to the ambulance, I think is pivotal. But Scholar P, I want you to share what you thought before I share like kind of my day in Vegas experience and how it was different.
Yeah, no, for real. I think I just want to sort of reiterate your points. Like, in terms of the capitalism piece, like, there should, you knew that there were going to be several tens of thousands of people there, and there has to be a certain level of standards that you have, right? And I think that people get so lax. First of all, I mean, we're still in a pandemic. Like, believe what you want, but we're still in a pandemic. First of all, so like, it's already sort of questionable to be out there, because we don't know everyone's status is for real. But even more importantly, it's like, if you're dealing with tens of thousands of people, like, what in your right mind would make you think that you can be as lax with medical equipment, with staff, with personnel, and then I know with some of the videos that we've watched, there have been claims that people could have taken over the PA system and stopped the show. You know what I mean? And so it takes so many people not doing enough or not doing anything for tragedies like that to happen. And this is not an exact comparison, but we think about, a few weeks ago, we were talking about how there are a lot of bystanders watch a woman get assaulted. And it was just like, so many things had to happen for nothing to happen.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. Like, everyone really had to be like frozen in time and be like, well, I mean, I guess we'll just let this sort of continue happening right now. And it's just like, everyone had the power and the capacity to do a little bit more. And when I say everybody, I mean people like Travis Scott, the sound folks, because everyone can see it. I saw fans literally going damn near up on stage and being like, stop the show. Stop. Like, I'm trying to save people's lives.
Yeah.
Right.
People climbing up to say things to try to stop it. And one girl was saying she feels, one of the girls that climbed up and was arguing with the camera person and pleading with him, she says she feels like she could have done more. And if she wish she can go back and just like throw the camera over. And it sucks because it's like, it's not on her. She did as much as she could. Another young man did as much as he could to try to like stop the show, but like, it wasn't on them. It was really in the video. We see that the organizers knew about this at, I think they said there were signs at like 9:20 and it's Travis went on at 9:20 or at 9. So 20 minutes after, but at 9:30, they got the call to stop the show. They ain't stop it to 10:10. And I think it was also really reckless that they were talking like there was reports that somebody was going in the crowd and stabbing people with drugs and it was drug related. Like no, like people were literally having heart attacks because they could not breathe. They were going into cardiac arrest because they were being trampled and they were being suffocated purely by the crowd. And I've seen a number of videos, people talking about how they thought that was going to be their last breath and that they could just hear Travis Scott just kind of going. And he had a bird's eye view. He could see. I'm sure he could see. And I guess I want to take it over to my day in Vegas experience. Oh, and real quick, I should shout out to Anthony. He talked about how some of the security guards were talking about how they were just only getting paid through Cash App. And I think that's a big thing, right? It does feel like it's a scam. But yeah, with my day in Vegas experience, like I think that people learned from that, and day in Vegas had enough medical personnel on deck. I remember I sat down just in the middle of concerts, just like on a concrete because there was nowhere else to sit. Everybody had taken up the seats, and I was just like, look, we were watching Victoria Monet, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch it from here, but sitting down. And somebody rushed up to me, was like, "Hey, bro, do you need anything? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good." He was like, "You need any water?" I was like, "Nah, bro, I'm straight. I'm straight. I got some." He's like, all right," and he was rushing away. But I remember during the SZA's concert, there was a number of people that I think kind of fell out, but I think as a crowd, we had ability to open up and let people like kind of come through and take whoever they needed to take out. But also, I see now how, I mean, of course, hindsight is 2020, but these artists are so observant now. Like when SZA was performing, I saw about 6 different times lights. People would take their flashlight and let me see if I can do it. They would take their flashlight and they would like kind of swirl it around. They would like, and it would be a group of maybe 10 people. And not only can other fans see it, and if other fans saw it, they would do it too. But then it got the artist like attention, and I think that was super, super, super important. Because SZA stopped the show a few different times. They stopped the show to say, like, look, y'all gotta everybody take 3 steps back and give people space so people can breathe and people can feel comfortable. So I saw as a group we could see how um people can kind of come together, and it reminded me of our protests. And that's what I was thinking about with Astro World, right? Like I remember one vivid moment when we were in front of the UCPD office and we had the hand sign, right? Remember I taught them the hand signs like to quiet down or if there was danger, and we would have the quiet crowd quiet down. They gave the danger signal showing that like somebody had passed out, and people opened up. And I remember Mason was like, open up, and the crowd opened up and we rushed in and got the girl, got her out, got her some water, got her under some shade. So it's like those are the safety precautions you need in place when you have a large amount of people in that you're responsible for. And I knew that as a 24, 25-year-old, right? Like just running up. That was the first major protest I've ever had. Like I'd had 50 people show up, but thousands, bro. Like but that's with great power comes great responsibility, and I think that's why Travis Scott he is liable, and Live Nation is liable.
Right, absolutely, yeah, because it's like if you can know that without having that experience of like holding those concerts and those festivals and like how the hell, and it goes back to what you were saying before. It
Mhm.
was just like the qualifications, the qualifications of the people you have running an event damn near could show you how you think about your audience, right? And so I think that with that being said, we can learn a lot from everything that's been going on with Astro World. And I think that unfortunately, you can't bring those people back, but what you can do is learn from these other concerts. And honestly, I'm thinking about what it looks like to have these festivals be sort of set up more stadium style, because where you actually have chairs and it's not just people standing in a particular area. Because I mean, this is going to go down in history as something that's super super horrible, and it might
Yeah.
change the way that these types of events are thrown from now on. But in the meantime, I think there are very simple things and very very simple but effective models like the ones you use at the protests, or the ones that were used at the day in Vegas that people can really really learn from. And so that's
Mhm.
our hope. Travis is paying for the funerals of the deceased, which as he should, and hopefully he takes a lot more pride in those safety measures moving forward, because clearly the people around him did, and people around him in Live Nation did not do that, and
Mhm.
and I hope that they sort of take those lessons moving forward.
Big facts.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, these, like we've said, it's been a crazy week for artists. It's been a crazy week for us all. But staying in the artist realm, there is some light. It's light and darkness in a sense.
Mhm.
Summer Walker, man, Summer Walker. She had one of the best R&B debut albums like ever. I
Mhm.
know her joint actually debuted #1 on the charts. Still Over It. Shout out to Still Over It. Me and T
Uh-huh.
Shaw have listened to the album, and it's great. But now we got to get into some fairly crazy stuff, because she was talking about basically this idea of London on the track, right? And when she was talking about London on the track, she basically, this is my favorite song on the album thus far. It's called Fourth Baby Mama. Okay. Now here at Brewin Black, we don't even like to use the word baby mama, or but that's the literal name of the song. And she started off the song by saying, "Your mama should have whooped your ass." And first of all, don't ever tell me, and don't ever start anything with me by saying my mama should whoop my ass. That's
Mhm.
disrespectful.
Oh,
But it was,
absolutely.
but in the song, she talks about how his mom was not there for him, and how now, because he's lit, he has money, he's paying up for a lot of stuff for his mom. His mom condones certain behavior in terms of the way in which he treats women, and it started to make me think about, like, as two brothers who have great moms, right? We think about this idea of raising a black man in America and having to instill so much confidence in him and so much love in him, because the world naturally wants to hate us and looks for ways to hate us.
Mhm.
And of course, it does the same thing for little black girls as well. But I speak about black men because sometimes in all that love that we are given by like our moms and things of that nature, sometimes we can be defended and coddled in a way that doesn't make us the best mates for future people, because some of
Mhm.
our behavior is justified, and we make some excuses for that
Mhm.
behavior, right? And so I
Acceptable.
just right, and I think that mothers try to love us so much, and I think that sometimes people will also say things like, "Who raised you?" Sort of making a
Mhm.
claim that our guardians didn't raise us in the correct manner. But T, what do you think about how the world sometimes loves us so much that it, there's not a sense of accountability for like our future relationships? Speak on that a little bit for me.
Yeah, bro, and that's such a good question because I mean, especially couched in this episode, right? Where we understand as black men, there's a lot of harm that can come to our bodies and our physical just for being who we are. Like, not even as an individual, literally just our identity as a person that is being born can bring
Right.
violence. You know, that's how what I also quick tidbit. That's what I want people to understand about like the trans identity and when we're talking about women, right? Like literally who you are can cause violence. Nothing
Right.
you've said, nothing you've done, just literally you existing in this world and walking down the street can lead to that, right? So I think with that, then you're like, okay, well, we need to meet these people with care. But in a lot of different ways, especially because the issues that affect the black community, black men, like our issues are and our the injustices that happen to us are centered, right? So we have a privilege in a way to hold these conversations, and in a lot of ways, like we get put on pedestals. I know a lot of black men that really are just they meet the bar, because the bar sometimes is in hell, and they get put on a pedestal just for like doing things that like women do all the time, right? So I think that that is one thing that maybe we can start to think about, how to hold people accountable. It's like, you sometimes I think as men, especially black men, we uh like what's the saying? Like, you applaud a fish for swimming. Like, I feel like sometimes that
Right.
happens to us. Like, just because we're a decent ally, people are like, "Oh my god!" It's like, that white boy that's a Kappa. I forgot his name, but he was shimmying. Everybody was like, "Oh my god!" And then, like, anytime he said anything about racial injustice, people are like, "Oh my!" Like, he's the white Martin Luther King.
Right. Right.
That same thing is like, we can't continue to put each other and allow people to put us on pedestals for doing things that we know we should do. And I think that that's one thing, because I think that we start to think that we're much more special than we really are. And that's
Mm.
not saying that we aren't special, because we all are. But like, again, we all are special, right? We're no more special than anyone else. So the things that we do shouldn't be held to a higher standard as if a black woman had done it, or if somebody else had done it, right? Like, I think that that is one thing that I think that we maybe have to get out of. But I mean, I think my mother, like, I would have to ask my sister, but I don't think she raised us any different, right? And I think that that's another thing. I think that sometimes we are raised a little different, and we have different rules, and there are double standards to things. Me and my sister had the same curfew. So like, I know some people are like, "Oh, the son can stay out a little longer, but the girl got to come in earlier," as a protection for her, and that's understandable. But it does impose a double standard. So I think things like that, um, because even in my family, there's some deadbeat dads, right? That people, they give them the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, he was going through some things, or he wasn't ready at the time. But it's like, sir, your child's still living and breathing and growing older, and you haven't done anything, so that's not really an excuse. So I think that oftentimes we people find excuses for us and our actions, and I think that that's the start of the problem. That being on the pedestal and always being able to excuse things that lead you to being a bad person. Not saying that one action makes you a bad person, but when you continue to excuse actions, those things, the parts become a whole, right? Like, and I think it starts to make up some people's identity, and they think they can get away with things they definitely shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, in that I also want to bring up something that's been really big this week. Heavy week, man. That which is DaBaby and Dani, because as you talk about this idea of accepted behavior and like that becoming a trend and a pattern that folks accept, I think about Dani and DaBaby. And so for those of you who don't know, Dani Leigh was basically in the baby's townhouse in Charlotte, North Carolina. She is, not nursing her baby, but taking care of her baby. And her and DaBaby have an argument. DaBaby says, "Hey, look, you can't stay here. You got to go now. Maybe you can go to a 5-star hotel, whatever." Uh, Dani Leigh is not from North Carolina. I believe she's from LA. She didn't have anywhere to really go, no resources in terms of having people that she's connected to in North Carolina or in Charlotte at least. And so she's like, no, that's not happening. And so DaBaby puts her on Instagram live. And see, you and I were talking about how like maybe it was a farce at first, but I was going back and thinking, I was like, she didn't look like she was ready to be on camera. She didn't look done up. She looked, and she was putting the pillow up, right? She was
Mhm.
putting the pillow up and multiple times in the video. And then you see another IG live video of the cops actually being there because DaBaby actually calls the cops and the authorities and somehow presses charges against Dani Leigh. And it was just a very humiliating moment for her.
Mhm.
She was
That was
talking
the
about how much
point.
she loves. You said what?
I think that was the point for him.
Right. And then he uses it to promote his tour, right? As
Mm,
he's talking about it, right? So like it's one of those things where, I look back at some other IG live videos of them and he explicitly calls her his side piece, his like his side witch, you
mm,
know what I'm saying? And it was just a very, very unfortunate thing because I think that she actually had some posts about like being his yellow bone and like all he wants is a yellow bone.
I
And
remember that. That's when we had the
right,
conversation about colorism.
yeah, and it's just one of
Got
those things where
crucified for him.
right. And it's like this man has had trends and patterns of just
Mhm,
having multiple mothers of multiple children. And for some reason, people get caught up in this trap of, oh, I'm going to be the one that changes this person.
mhm,
And mind you, she was also going back and forth with another mother of his child, Mimi, back and
mhm,
forth, right? And so I think it's interesting because the real conversation here, T, was main chick versus side chick. And I
mhm,
think that from a personal standpoint, I've had people in my life that I looked at and said, hey, look, you are special to me. Like I would get rid of all these other women before I got rid of you. But I think sometimes where men mess up is that and women in terms of how they look at it is that just because you're not necessarily just because you're more important than a side piece, if you're not the only piece in a lot of case scenarios, it's still not valuable, right?
mhm,
Because I think what Danny Leigh was thinking was, oh, he's spending time with me. We've been in this house for 3 months and this, that, and the third. But if the man thinks about you, doesn't consider you the most important person in his life, and in monogamous relationships, the only person in his life, you're wasting your time because
mhm,
you can be more important than all the casual people. But just because you're a level above casual doesn't mean that that's something that you should hold on to. That's a very
mhm,
low bar for people who want a monogamous relationship. If I'm not your only piece and you're looking for a monogamous relationship, why would you entertain someone who's making you just slightly above their side pieces? And so that's sort of what I've been thinking about. But I want you to tell me your thoughts on DaBaby and Danny Leigh and like this idea of a side piece versus a main piece and what that really means.
okay, yeah, I like we said, I originally thought this was a hoax, not a hoax, a publicity stunt more
Right,
than
right.
anything, because it just was everywhere and it didn't seem that big of a deal, but, like, the Shade Room had 6 posts about it, it
Yeah.
was trending on Twitter, DaBaby's other baby mama jumped in, was saying stuff, and I was like, "What? I just didn't get it. It felt manufactured as a news topic. And it's like anytime something's a news topic, people eat it up and they're gonna talk about it. So I wanted to know why it was really a thing. But I think there's enough that I've seen that could show that it was a real life thing, especially because there is like charges and things like that. Um, but I think this week tells me that I mean, this week, every week, I think that there has to be more respect for the mother of your children. I
Mm.
think that it was wild. Even if we're talking about side piece versus main piece, like it's wild to be nutting in somebody that's your side piece. I think that's wild. To have a child with somebody you consider your side piece, that's wild. Right? Like that when we talk about like when people talk about like oh the LGBT is gonna bring down the black community and it's the destruction, black feminists and black LGBT people are the destroying the black family. Like no, nutting inside pieces is destroying the black family. Having
Oh, yo,
children
run that back. No, run that back. Run that back. Say that again. Say that again.
nutting inside women or even nutting in anybody you don't see building a relationship or building a real foundation with is actually destroying the black family. We are the one that women are the one that house and birth the children, yes, but we are the ones that we have literally a half in procreating a child, y'all. Like, so we need to take responsibility. So that's another thing that we have to be held accountable with and for. So it's like it it boggles my mind that like we can't see past some of these things and yes that's really what is destroying the black community. I'm sorry, PSA. Anybody that needs to hear that, I need y'all to hear that today. But yeah, like it just the lack of respect, the utter lack of respect. And it's like y'all can be beefing, but to know that y'all were that good just 30 seconds ago and like you walked in and you switched up, I think that that's concerning. And I think that that can be concerning to anybody. But to treat someone like that you have a child with is wild. And I think that the true victim here is the child. And this is, and we can take this away from a celebrity thing because this happens in every single everyday life with a lot of people, right? There are people that people have kids with, they end up hating. And it's like you got to learn how to co-parent at some point, because I promise you the child is gonna feel that tension the most. And I think that especially at that age, they don't know how to handle that. So I think that like that's the conversation I would rather have, because like the main versus side, like honestly, like you shouldn't have, nobody should be a main if you have a side, like because
That's
that's
it.
unless it like if you into polygamy, boom, do it. Polyamory, boom. But that should be a discussed thing. If you are into open relationships, boom. But don't be exclusive and then have somebody on the side. That's not exclusive. And I think that people are too selfish. Like I think that if you want to explore having multiple partners, talk to your partner about that and be open and transparent. Be a man about that, or be a woman about however you want to move. But other than that, I'm cool.
Yeah, no, I feel you, and I bring that up because I think that a lot of times when we think about I think people are selfish, like you say, right? Like we want to have that person in our lives that we don't want to let go of, but
Mhm,
like but we don't care about them enough to like make everybody else disappear, right? And
mhm,
then a lot of times I think that we folks sell people these false promises of, oh, I'm going to treat you like a man. I'm gonna
mhm,
do more for you than I'm doing for other people, but I'm still not gonna. But it still doesn't mean I'm going to settle down or whatever. And
mhm.
like I said, we're only talking about people who want monogamous relationships. And it's like you sell that person a dream. I've sold people dreams. I give people boyfriend benefits without necessarily having a boyfriend mentality. Like some of this
Mhm.
stuff is just fun for me. So, but even me, I've had to take steps back. And so I think that and I love that point that you made about what really destroys the black family outside of white supremacy. Sometimes we have to look at some of the stuff
Papa
that
was
we're
Rolling
doing.
Stone.
Right,
That
right, right. And I think sometimes we have to look at what's happening with us internally because, to your point, one of the reasons that Leigh thinks that DaBaby got mad at her is because she had a Plan B sent to his condo,
mm,
meaning that doesn't even mean that she was still okay with raw sex, but she wasn't okay with getting pregnant again, or at least at this time. And for DaBaby to, if he, let's say he had that reaction because of that, if that was the case, that looks crazy. And furthermore, you're willing to put your daughter out on the street. Because
mm,
let's say Leigh was attacking DaBaby or something like that. If she's getting charged with those types of things, I'd be damned if the mother of my children would have ever attacked me and think she's going anywhere with my child. You
big
know what I
fact,
mean?
big
Especially
fact.
when I'm in my city where I have the resources and all the connections and stuff like that. If you really feel feared for your life, or you really were that scared of Dani Leigh, your daughter wouldn't be going with Dani Leigh. You use the cops as a tactic to help kick her out, right?
Mhm,
Because if
mhm,
she was attacking you, there's no way in the world that a responsible father would let his 3-month-old T go
mhm,
with go with that mother. So I think that it's embarrassing. She said that she's gonna learn from it and grow. But I think as DaBaby looks at this situation, I hope that he really takes the time to actually really like and enjoy the person that he wants to spend, the next person he wants to get pregnant, because this is not how we should be running, y'all. Like y'all are destroying lives. You have no intention of being with this person or loving this person. And I think that Dani Leigh was sold something else. And
absolutely.
if he did, and even if he told her, hey, you're a side piece, because he did that on Instagram Live, you cannot then treat her like she's your main and give her the benefits of a main. That's manipulative. I can
Big
say that because I've done it, even if it's been unintentional. We all have to look ourselves in the mirror. So that's
mhm,
yeah, it's a crazy world, bro. It's a crazy world. Yeah,
absolutely.
man. Yeah, but look, y'all, I know I keep saying it. It's heavy. This is a 2-tonner. This is a
Mhm.
2-ton episode now. But what we're about to jump into is something called our spotlight. Because people have been winning, and we got to make sure that we illuminate the people who have been winning, especially the black women who've been winning. And so we want to give a special shout out to Dawn Staley. She just recently signed a $22.4 million contract.
Mhm.
And she is one of the highest. She is the highest paid coach in her sport and in the Southeastern Conference. So we want to say congratulations. We love it when black people get their coin. We deserve their coin. The coin one day. One day that's going to be us, man. One day we're gonna give the spotlight to ourselves. One day, one
Hey,
day, one day. We love those types of contract numbers, but in all seriousness, it's I think that there are oftentimes so many situations where black women either underestimate themselves in the job market or they're underestimated by their prospective employer, and they don't get that coin compared to black men, compared to white women, compared to white men. And so to see this coach be able to be the highest paid anything in her sport and in her conference, it's just a beautiful thing.
big facts. Yeah, you said it best, bro. I love that people finally get to get compensated for their value. I think that it's important. South Carolina women have been dominating. They've gone to the Final Four a number of times. I'm not exactly sure if they've won, but she runs a fantastic program, and I think that black women coaches, like they're on the up and up, and I think that people are finally respecting them. I think it was 2 black women in the final 3 black women in the final 4, 2 in the championship last year, or 1 in the championship. But I think it's just is I feel like they're finally getting noticed, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, man, that's about it, man. This episode was woo, it was
Mm,
great, but
mhm.
y'all look, for any of our listeners, man, hopefully by the time this gets out, it'll be a less stressful time in the world. I think one of the words that I can say to like describe this week, just exhausting, very, very I feel very depleted, and I'm ready to go and have a good time, relax, celebrate something. Because it's been a lot of highs and a lot of lows this particular week. And so we know that if we're feeling it, y'all are feeling it too. But we want y'all to know that we're right in the trenches with you in some way, shape, form, and capacity. So we want to say thank you for continuing to listen with us. Thank you for the people who were contributing today to the conversation. Um, and yeah, man, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you said it best, bro. Like, we just appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with us. We know it was heavy. We know this episode was a little longer, but I mean, that's how it be. Life heavy. Life go a little
Yeah.
long sometimes. Cherish the seconds that you listening to this and you not in prison, that you alive, that you breathing. You feel me? Rock with
Yikes.
us, and we appreciate y'all. Scholar P, you got anything else?
Nah, man, take us out.
All right, like we like to say, keep the coffee black.
Black.
And we like our podcast like we like our women. Black.
Black.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with us, and we will see you soon. Peace.